Ladies and gentlemen, go for our wild, wild ride with the Honey Badgers. But beware, the sweetest kittens have the sharpest claws. For your own safety, strap yourself in and hold onto something as we enter the Pussycat cast. Taboo topics.
Wait a second. Men are human too.
Marginalized men. Uncomfortable truths. You suck! The Pussycats aren't afraid of heavy lifting.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Pussycat Cast number 10, Stealthing, Rape by Another Name. And joining me on today's show is this week's Verbal Valkyries, who are our polecat punster turned part-time Pussycat pugilist Hannah, Anna Porn is for Geniuses 2 Cherry, who believes gray matter also matters, the principled, passionate, plucky, and pleasant Prim Reaper, and the pickle in this clam bake, myself, the Supreme Doge in Charge. Special thanks to the CIA. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry about your loss.
If you're listening to this after the live show and you want to hear the full stream, go to www.honeybadgerradio.com for our unabridged podcasts, or look up to the right of this video. There's a link to go directly to the unabridged version on YouTube.
Emma Watson was among the winners at the MTV Movie and Television Awards, the first major film and TV awards ceremony to adopt gender-neutral categories. Watson's performance in Disney's live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast won her the Gong for Best Actor in a Movie, a category that featured both male and female nominees. The British actor beat male performers including Hugh Jackman and James McAvoy to the award, which was presented by gender-neutral non-binary actor Asia Kate Dillon. No, I'm serious. The first gender-neutral non-binary actor. In her acceptance speech, Watson described the award as very meaningful. The first acting award in history that doesn't separate nominees based on sex says something about how we perceive the human experience, she said. MTV's move to create genderless awards for acting will mean something different to everyone. But to me, it indicates that acting is about the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and that doesn't need to be separated into two different categories. This is very meaningful to me. All right. Well, I just want to throw it out to you guys to see if you guys have any thoughts on this.
I'm literally yawning as we speak. Actually yawning.
How about we just focus on making interesting characters rather than worrying what's between their legs, and then maybe we'll have good shows, and then maybe we won't have to worry about all this political bullshit.
No, not just what's between their legs, what's between the legs of the people who are chosen to represent them in an arbitrary system of favoritism that is very incestuous and full of nepotism that is Hollywood.
Yes.
That too.
I just wonder when MTV is going to remove the M from their name. Because, I mean, like, they were about music. It started out being about music. Music television. That was what the M stood for. Music. Music, music, music. And then they got all this shit. You know, there's all movie and TV awards and TV shows that are designed to promote dysfunctional lifestyles and all this political shit. And, like, when did MTV turn into your grandpa railing about politics day and night and promoting a moralistic agenda?
Marvel Comics continues to suffer from dwindling sales, and it is looking very likely that upwards of almost 30 titles are going to be canceled. Sales for April's issue reveal 28 titles have sold less than 20,000 copies, which is right in that sweet spot of the cancellation threshold number. Among the 28 titles on the chopping block for potential cancellation are Captain America Sam Wilson, who is the Falcon, Gwenpool, which is basically a female Deadpool, Captain Marvel, who's another female character, Totally Awesome Hulk, Silk, Squirrel Girl, Occupy Avengers, Unstoppable Wasp, Moon Girl and the Devil Dinosaur, Hellcat, and Mrs. Marvel is on the fence for cancellation. These are, I brought this up because these are the titles that had the distinct stench of SJW virtue signaling written into them, and were so politicized and divisive that they were driving their sales down. When representatives that worked at Marvel came forward and said, apparently when we go to our distributors, it appears that the reason why our comic books aren't selling is because of the diversity in the books. The response from the media and comic book websites, which tend to be very feminist and feminists themselves, was that that's impossible and that that can't be the problem because there's always been diversity in comics. It's not that. The problem is not that. The problem is the virtue signaling that goes on in the books, the preaching. They're like chick tracts. We've talked about this on the show before, where we see all the things that are going on, especially when it comes to feminist issues creeping into the books. So I wanted to show that the sales are starting to drop and they're going to have to cancel some titles. It looks like the readers are not responding in the way that the writers and staff had hoped.
Oh my goodness, who would have thought that feminist Thor lecturing a bad guy about feminist theory wouldn't sell a lot in comics? I'm so shocked about that.
And here's another thing too, Prim, that you mentioned, that some of these titles are not actually, like they don't have that preachy tone, but they do feature a female main character. And unfortunately, it's gotten to the point now where comic book readers and consumers are not buying books because they feature a female character because they're afraid that it's going to have more preachy garbage inside of it. So they automatically don't read them. So there are basically innocents getting caught in sort of the blast radius of this, of these poor sales. Whereas people are just like, well, that's probably going to be just like this shit over here, so I'm not going to buy it.
And that's really a shame because like there's been all kinds of really interesting female characters in comics, like Catwoman in DC. I'm kind of on Black Widow myself, but I mean, like, I feel like she had the potential to have a little bit of interesting backstory going on and stuff like that. But
yeah,
either way, a lot of these female characters, they're not guilty of this stuff, and it's a real shame that people are getting so turned off of this sort of thing that's happening.
Clamentine Ford. You could not in a million billion years make this stuff up. The internet experience for women is an extremely different one to that of men. The least shocking statement you're going to read all year. And for women with prominent public profiles, it's even worse. Clamentine Ford, one of Australia's premier and most vocal feminist authors, continually cops an absolute torrent of horrendous shit from limp-dicked losers who have nothing better to do than trawl the bowels of their own minds to spew out the most rank, obscene shit that they can think of, purely to assuage their own fear and intimidation caused by the sheer temerity of a woman standing up for herself and the shit that she believes in. This is actually literally the article I'm reading, so. Facebook, the benevolent overlord of social media, largely allows most of these fucking atrocious sentences to go up unchecked, unabated, and unfiltered. This includes some of the more vile rape, violence, and death threats that you're ever likely to see. Despite this, it's Clem who today has mystifyingly felt the swift kiss of Facebook's banhammer, booted off her own profile for violating the Facebook community standards. You'd think this would be for some outrageous, horrible, completely egregiously gross post. You'd be wrong. Absolutely bloody wrong. Clem got banned for telling one of her sadly numerous disgusting trolls to fuck off. We are not kidding. Almost 300 Australian schools... Oh no, that's it. We're not kidding. I accidentally moved on to the next fucking article. So... Clamentine Ford is salty because she got banned from Facebook for telling somebody to fuck off.
Clamentine Ford, in middle of December of 2015. Clamentine Ford participating in raising national media attention to a domestic violence case that appeared to be being ignored by police, and then helped after finding out that it wasn't what she thought, helped to railroad an innocent guy. Clamentine Ford spent months and months and months on Twitter attacking specific MRAs, sicking her followers on them, something that Mila was accused of doing and permanent banned from Twitter for doing, but it's okay when she does it. She makes absolutely hateful, flat out, unquestionably hateful statements about men. But she thinks that that's the only thing that Facebook took issue with because it's the most recent thing she did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Is it you think that it's more like a this is the last straw?
I think it was the last straw. I'm sure she's been receiving all kinds of complaints about her, or Facebook has been receiving all kinds of complaints about her because she has a habit. She does, there's certain types of social justice warriors who specifically do this thing. They pick people that they want to take down. I don't like to use the word stalk, but they'll harangue them. They'll target them. They'll document a select view of them where they take some things they've said or a lot of things they've said out of context. They'll poke at them until they get them irritated, and then they'll take those irritations, the statements of irritation out of context, and so on, and they'll put that all together and then get that person banned from whatever social media they want to get rid of them from. That was done to Jack Barnes on Twitter by a set of social justice warriors attached to David Futrell, and Clamentine Ford was one of them. But she does this over and over again, and I'm honestly, I'm sure she's probably had numerous people that she has tried to entrap this way, and that have complained about her, turn around and complained about her, and I'm sure that they basically, this was the straw that broke the camel's back, and they're like, all right, that's it, you're gone.
Almost 300 Australian schools, speaking of Clamentine Ford, have signed up to a policy saying that they will consider helping children switch genders even if their parents object. The group of institutions in the state of Victoria, some of which educate children as young as 6, have all signed up to a lengthy Safer Schools policy on handling gender identity in schools. It includes a section which notes that they do not consider parental consent to be a necessary ingredient if children want to transition. The guide says, quote, "It may be possible to consider a student a mature minor and able to make decisions without parental consent. It does not specify at what age this could be appropriate." The document goes on to suggest possible actions to take, including changing their gender in school records, altering their pronouns in the classroom, altering their uniforms, and moving them to different groups and sports teams and on school camps to suit their preferred identity. At least 290 schools have signed up for the document, more than 95 of which are primary schools educating the country's youngest schoolgoers. In recent years, Victoria has established itself as a hotbed of gender politics in schools.
This is really dangerous. This is medically dangerous, because here you have a situation where, and this is not to say anything to the effect that being transgender is in any way wrong or fake or anything like that. That it's a real thing. There are people with gender, I can't think of the right word again.
Dysphoria?
Dysphoria, yes, gender dysphoria, that honestly, they are transgender, and for some of them, surgery is the best option, and for some of them it's not. But at 8 years old, or 6 years old, or 10 years old, or even 12 or 14, having surgery is something that, it's not a minor decision. Even a minor surgery is not a minor decision. In this case, we're talking about hormone treatment first for a period of time. And when you fuck around with somebody's hormones, you're not just giving them something that makes them feel different and look different. You are fucking around with their entire system, their whole body. It messes with the circulatory system. It messes with the nervous system, not just the central nervous system, but the peripheral nervous system. Your hormones affect everything about your physical body. And to do that when you're growing, for somebody who, now, all right, my first little girlfriend, when we were little, you hold hands and you call each other, except, you don't tell everybody because you're both girls, wanted to be a boy. really, really wanted to be a boy when we were little. When she was 6, she wanted to be a boy. When she was 8, she wanted to be a boy. When she was 10, she wanted to be a boy. When she was like 14 years old, she had moved away, and she wrote back to me after I wrote to her and sent me a picture, and she very much was feminine and girly, and she wanted to be a girl. She had 4 boyfriends, and
Wow.
it was a huge change. And it wasn't something like if she had gone to a school where they came along at 6 or 8 or 10 years old and said, oh yeah, we'll help you have surgery and everything, she would have been suicidal by the time she was an adult.
A lot of people who support stuff like this, they say, oh yeah, well, if you do it before puberty, then, you get to stop a lot of horrible things in puberty that will make them more dysphoric, because developing breasts for a girl that wants to be a boy is traumatic and all that. It's like, well, you're kind of discounting the fact that puberty might bring about changes that she might like and might result in not having these kinds of feelings anymore.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Hannah already mentioned all of the health risks in doing this prematurely.
This is called Stealthing is Just Rape by a Different Name. So I'm going to be reading the article. Lately, I have been seeing stealthing on my social media timelines. Intrigued and lightly against my better judgment, I searched for clearer meaning. In short, stealthing is when a man intentionally removes or damages his condom without his partner's knowledge and or consent. While stealthing may not be a new phenomenon, we should make no mistake about what to call it: sexual assault.
Women do this with birth control all the time. This is actually a very common behavior among women. And I have sat on Reddit in the past and argued for days at a time with feminists that when a woman does this to a man, there's nothing wrong with it. They've argued with me that there's nothing wrong with it when a woman does this to a man. And I've had to argue back and forth regarding the right to paternal surrender. That yes, it is a woman's fault if she gets pregnant after sabotaging her birth control. It is not the man's fault she got pregnant because she sabotaged her birth control. That's the first thing. Feminists have been arguing for years that if a guy is subjected to this, he has no right to expect any recourse because his fertility is his responsibility. And it's even ranged to the idea that expecting a woman to comply with a request for birth control, expecting a woman to allow you to control your fertility as a man, is infringing on her right to choose. That has been argued to me on Reddit, that a woman has a right to get pregnant using a man's sperm, even if he does not want her to get pregnant, if that's what she wants. And if he gets in her way, that's actually sexual abuse. So I don't want to hear it about the condoms. That's the first thing. Second thing, ladies, you have multiple categories of birth control. You have barrier methods. You have hormonal methods. You have IED devices or IUD devices. Do not blow up your uterus. That would prevent pregnancy, but it would hurt. IUD devices. You have all kinds of things. And then if you get pregnant and you don't want to be pregnant, you have the morning after pill. You have chemical abortion. You have surgical abortion. You have adoption. And you have safe haven abandonment centers. You have every way in the world to avoid becoming a custodial parent. If you don't want custody of your baby and you give your baby up to the husband, you're pretty much guaranteed, especially in the United States, that you will not be paying as much child support to him as he would be paying to you if you got pregnant, had the baby, kept custody, and the child support was laid on him. So when it comes to risk regarding pregnancy, childbirth, custody, child support, the whole 9 yards, your risk is not as big as his risk. The only risk you have is in the aspects, the physical aspects of pregnancy and labor. And since half of the population does that in every species that carries its babies internally, I don't think you really have a lot to complain about there. This has been told to me by numerous guys that I've talked to about circumcision. Apparently, it moves inside a condom if you don't cut off the skin, and it doesn't move as easily inside the condom, even if the condom is lubricated, if there's no foreskin. So that foreskin is loose, and it's not it's not like stuck in place. So basically, he gets more sensation inside that condom if he's not cut. You know, and I know that's not helpful to guys who are cut, but obviously that the idea that using a condom is important is another reason to oppose circumcision. And my final thing is, this is to the guys that do this. If you're trying to stealth, you are taking a huge risk. You're not just risking the fact that you could be stuck with a lifetime of expenses. Women carry sexually transmitted diseases too. And something like 1 in 6 people in the U.S. now has a virus of the herpes family called genital warts that causes cancer. And men get it too. And men get cancer, penile cancer, they'll get testicular cancer, and so on from this. And this is a serious risk. You go bareback with a woman that you don't know well enough to know whether she might be a risk. You are taking a 1 in 6 chance that you are infecting yourself with something that will give you cancer in your dick later. I hate to be a lecturer on that, but that's really stupid. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing when I say, don't be going down on people without protection for the same reason. And it's wrong for women to pressure men to go down on them simply because it's less likely for protection to be used under that circumstance. It's a lot easier to go down on something with a condom on it than it is to try to cover the entire genital area of a woman and still get sexual stimulation that way. So this idea of stealthing just, to me, strikes me, it doesn't strike me as being something where a guy has a win in that situation at all. It's a lose-lose situation for him.
The after show topic, which I meant to put in there, I think you guys will find this one interesting. It's a article. I thought I'd change it up, get a little chocolatey. This one was put out by Ebony, the website Ebony, based on the magazine of the same name. It is entitled "Why More Black Men Must Be Feminists." And I'm curious to see what it's going to say. So we're going to look at that, see how that goes. If you want to join us in the after show, you have to become a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. You give a little, you get to watch. You give a lot, you get to join in. That came across as naughtier than I meant it to, but fuck it. That's basically what it is.
We're all friends here.
Yeah, we're all very close.